Thanks, Larissa. Hi, everybody. This is Warner, an employer outreach at the University of Arizona Global Campus, along with Larissa at SVA, and we're just going to wait just about a minute here for everybody to log in. We appreciate you joining us today for a FourBlock information session.
It looks like we have Olivia joining us now. Hi, Olivia. I just made you a co-host.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and get
Hi,
started.
Larissa.
Oh, hi, Olivia. How are you? Thank you for joining. I'm going to go ahead and press
Having some
on.
issues with my Wi-Fi, Warner, so I apologize.
Got it. Well, we hear you, so that's great. And it looks like your video is coming on as well. So we got a lot of intro to do, so let me go ahead and press on with that. So hello and welcome everybody to today's information session with FourBlock. My name is Warner Petzold, Employer Outreach Specialist at the University of Arizona Global Campus and 10-year U.S. Air Force veteran. Also joining us today is Larissa Armstead, Student Success Program Coordinator and Student Veterans of America Advisor at the University of Arizona Global Campus, and she's a U.S. Air Force military spouse. Thank you again for joining us today to learn about the Career Readiness Program at FourBlock. Before I turn the floor over to Gary, Olivia, and then also Shevas at FourBlock, I'm going to go ahead and go over a few housekeeping items. This webinar is being recorded. For all those who register for today's information session, the recording will be emailed to you in a few days. We will take time to answer as many questions as possible during and at the end of the presentation. At the bottom of the screen is a Q&A button. If you can submit you can submit questions with your name or anonymously to be answered live. We will do our best to get to as many questions as we can. However, if your question is not answered by the end of the presentation, you can email it to Career Services, that's both words mashed together, no dots or anything in between. So Career Services at UAGC.edu. We will follow up with FourBlock to get any remaining questions answered. Also, feel free to engage in the chat. You can pose questions in the chat, and members of the Career Services team will be available to help answer any questions throughout the presentation. If you have any technical difficulties, we recommend logging out of Zoom and logging back in. Now, I would like to introduce our presenters. Joining us today is Gary Guzman, Strategic Partners Director, and then Olivia Martinez-Stewart, Regional Director, Southwest and West Region at FourBlock. Also joining us is Shevas Matthews, FourBlock alumni, 20-year U.S. Navy veteran, Student Success Assistant, and current student at UAGC. Gary, Olivia, and Shevas, we are excited to hear your presentation, and thank you for joining us today. I'll go ahead and turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much, Warner. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with Olivia. We have several slides that we're going to be running through, but really just to share information about who we are and how we can, complement, the services and resources that are available through, to you through your university, but also, provide additional resources as you consider your first priority as being academic success. Our goal is to do everything that we can to arm you for, post-military career success. So with that being said, I do have a set of slides that I will share. Olivia and I will be kind of going back and forth in terms of, who's presenting. And then we have Shevas here, who obviously has gone through our program, who we will leverage for some additional insight as well. But go ahead and actually, I need to stop sharing because my apologies. I just realized that because I have a video, I have to also share some sound. So let me go ahead and redo that. And
And Chevis is actually an alum of our of the FourBlock program, and hopefully we'll have a few minutes for him to share a little bit about his experience as well.
Happy to be here. I'll hang around as long as I'm needed.
Thank you,
Are,
Chevis.
are we able to see the screen?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Stand by. Hmm. Not exactly. Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure what is going on. My apologies. Says your screen sharing is paused. So I'm trying to unpause it. I don't see an option to unpause it though.
Okay, let me see what I can do on my end, Gary. Just having so many problems with this that I decided that probably not a good idea to share. Hold on.
Hmm.
All right, can you guys see mine?
No. Oh, there it comes.
There it is.
Okay, great. All right, Gary, if you're okay, I'm gonna go for
Yeah,
this.
go ahead. I don't see it though.
It's okay, no
I'm having
worries.
some issues.
We're
Okay.
presenting out of Canva, so sometimes that can be an issue. Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our FourBlock 2025 Veteran Career Readiness Information Session. And we're excited right now because we're about to start a new cohort, a new program. We have two times that we offer our program, and it is in the fall and in the spring. So similar to a university schedule. And we start next week, and the program is 10 weeks. We want to share a little bit about this program with you. Okay, can you see the second slide now? Nope.
No, it's still
No,
the same.
just the first one.
Okay, just the first one. Okay, let me
Oh,
get
there's the
over.
second slide.
There we go. Okay. So here's a little bit. We did the introductions. We'll talk a little bit. We'll just give you a brief introduction, talk about our mission and vision, why FourBlock, and some of the services and offerings, as well as going through the program overview and the impact it has had over the last 15 years. We will do a curriculum exercise so that you get an understanding, get a little taste of one of the many sessions that we provide here. And then we'll talk a little bit about our alumni and the program impact, the eligibility and expectations, how and when to apply, and we'll leave some time for question and answers. Right. All right. And my name is Olivia Martinez Stewart. I am the Regional Programs Director for West and Southwest and Global. I am a career professional in terms of career readiness. It has always been a part of my wheelhouse and my passion to really help people discover their strengths and understand how their strengths and skills can connect to meaningful work. I am an Army brat as well, and just so honored to be here, part of FourBlock. And my partner in crime is Gary Guzman. Gary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Thank you very much. And I'm assuming you can hear me. I'm having some issues again, just overall with my screen. But Gary Guzman, I'm a 23-year Air Force veteran. I am recently promoted to Senior Vice President of Strategic Partnerships at FourBlock. I pivoted into corporate recruiting post-military. I was a healthcare administrator by trade, but through the graces of and fortune of participating in FourBlock, I'm an alumnus myself and went through fall of 2017. My aperture opened up to just opportunities within, the corporate space outside of healthcare. And so I was fortunate enough to participate in a SkillBridge fellowship with Amazon Web Services, where they opened the door for me to get into the talent acquisition space. 5 years later, was leading military recruiting for all of Amazon Web Services. So at one point, we had 33,000 jobs posted worldwide. And my goal of myself and the 9 recruiters that were working on my team were to fill as many of those roles as possible with veterans and with military spouses. And so was able to leverage that experience with still wanting to give back to the FourBlock community. So I was during my 5 years was still volunteering as a career readiness coach, and I took on a part-time role serving as a career readiness instructor, where I was able to launch a couple of our cohorts. And then unfortunately was part of all of the layoffs that happened in 2023 with Amazon. So my entire team was let go, unfortunately, but that propelled me into, a role where I get to holistically with FourBlock full time, get to help student veterans, transitioning service members, veterans at large, and their spouses to help them find meaningful, purposeful employment. And it's through FourBlock that we're able to do that. So, I really appreciate being able to be here. And you can move to the next slide for me, Olivia, if that's okay.
Sure.
So, FourBlock's mission is very simple, but powerful, right? We empower folks like yourselves, student veterans, service members, veterans at large, and spouses to succeed in meaningful careers. At the same time, we're delivering on America's workforce needs, right? So connecting talent with the industries and employers that shape, the future of America. And our vision looks even further ahead in looking at, every veteran and their families and their spouses to be able to live lives of purpose and stability and of significance, right? So what makes us unique is how we do it, right? We live to our core values of, act with humility and work to build trust and pursue excellence in everything we do. But we create an environment where veterans like yourselves can explore career paths in safe space, low threat settings, and a place where you're able to really, be self-reflective and self-aware of who you are and how, you want to pursue your next role and how it relates to, your pursuit of your next role. So, so in being able to do that and build this community and this ecosystem of professionals, we just continue to grow. So it's not just about you finding a job, it's about maximizing your potential as you seek out, again, meaningful, purposeful post-military careers while we strengthen America's workforce resilience. So you can move to the next slide, Olivia. And I'm just going to bypass. It was a short video, but it unfortunately isn't working. I'm sorry?
Should I bypass the video?
Will it play in? And if we can share it, then that'd be fantastic. Will it play?
Is it not playing?
There's no sound.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and just we'll move on.
Oh,
right.
bummer.
So basically our story started 15 years ago, where our founder and president, Mike Abrams, was inspired by a conversation that he had with an Iwo Jima survivor, World War II survivor who accredited a life of significance to finding meaningful employment. And that conversation led to the inspiration of FourBlock, and FourBlock coming from the term from the military warfighting strategy, the 3-block war, where, in any given environment, you're dealing with combat, you're dealing with humanitarian care, and you're dealing with peacekeeping. Those 3 very separate, different challenges. And we feel and we know that there is a 4th challenge, a 4th block, and that is the transition back to, post-military life. And so hence the name FourBlock. And again, that video highlighted, one of the partnerships that we had in like USAA and things that we were doing, but also highlighted our founder, Mike Abrams, being able to just showcase, our beginnings. You can go ahead and move to the next slide, Olivia. So what we do, and I know Werner had mentioned, like, we're showcasing our flagship program, our career readiness program, but really we have a number of different offerings which our community provides, right? And so first we offer kind of a self-paced, AI-enabled career education tools in real time where there's personalized support that helps you explore industries, connect with employers, help discover your sense of purpose. Second, we have seminar-based education. And so that is our, we have live and virtual employer events where those are our monthly pathways events where we get to explore industry, very specific, not job fairs or career fairs, but you are really getting to hear from subject matter experts within particular industry, within specific professions, so that your aperture can grow towards specific spaces and domains within these industries and help you identify, your pursuit of whatever meaningful purpose or role within those domains exist, right? So again, just creating these safe spaces in low threats environment where you get to explore a little bit. Third is our flagship program, and that's our career readiness program, the seminar-based career education sessions where, we create these live and virtual employer meetups where they're rooted in, again, community, but teaching you key career readiness skills, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. And as you, again, pursue meaningful employment. So what happens is you end up like just becoming a better candidate because you grow more confidence as you engage with employers and all the different touch points. And then we have our local community engagement, which ensures that the transition doesn't end when the program does. And these are local events that we're hosting in key cities, in key communities where we know we have large alumni base, we have large employer bases, and it's an additional opportunity for our alumni and our community to, again, to leverage the resources that we have. And so these 4 offerings are what we just call the backbone of our organization, and really just calls for this kind of future ready model that will enable us to get to touching up to 10,000 veterans by 2027. And I'll touch base on a little bit of these. I'd mentioned the Career Pathways event. Olivia, you can go ahead and move. But they bring it kind of together, right? There again, these virtual events where you get to get insight from industry leaders and how to leverage your military experience in high demand fields like advanced manufacturing and aerospace and financial consulting, financial services, technology, right? We've keyed in on 9 very kind of broader industries, again, to provide the environment where you get to explore. And these are 2-hour sessions a month where you get to hear, for a half hour, 45 minutes, a panel of industry experts kind of geek out on the specific industry, and you're getting to learn more. But then we will invite 10 to 15, sometimes up to 20 different companies where they're providing additional insight. So you get to kind of roam from room to room and really just ask what it's like to not only, work in those industries, but like ask about different types of opportunities that exist. And then if you can move to the next slide, Olivia. So, and here's just some additional programming and resources that we have as well. So, the first, following a very successful pilot that we had earlier in the year, we're really excited to execute a national rollout of like Career Flow AI, which is an AI platform that helps transitioning veterans leverage the power of technology in their career search. I liken it to like a personalized CRM, right? Like a customer relationship management tool, tracks all the jobs that you have. You can, import those jobs. And then again, it's an AI tool. So it acts just as fast as, the chat GPTs and everything else. But not only does it like, track your jobs and where you're at in each of those jobs, but it also like, if you wanted to create a tailored resume specifically for that job and you have your master resume there, it will build it in seconds and align it specifically with the basic qualifications and the preferred qualifications of that role. So it prioritizes and puts them in a manner where that, when seen by a recruiter or hiring manager, it's going to put you in good light where they're not having to kind of seek out on the second page or third page or whatever the case may be, and they're able to find exactly what they need to find. So again, it's an amazing tool to be able to do that. but also being able to also help you with like LinkedIn profiles and a bunch of other things. And if you have informational calls with people, you're able to have and track all of those types of things as well. But we also have a FourBlock podcast as part of our curriculum. We had everyone from Simon Sinek and a bunch of others who are part of those podcast series, transitioning service members, influencers that are in the space that are providing advice and everything else. And Mike Abrams, our founder, he hosts those. And then we also offer a self-paced online course called Find Your Calling. And that's where you can not only participate in our offerings, but really align with, it's a self-reflective tool to really just figure out who you are and help align with what you want to do.
Very nice.
And then, we have a military spouse career readiness program as well. And so that just knowing that, military spouses bring so much, to the workforce, and we want to help them, just the same. And they are part, obviously, of your family. And so we want to just help make sure that we are providing all the resources we can to help you and your family at large. And then the next slide is, highlighting that our impact, isn't possible, or it's not made possible without all of our different employers. So today we partner with over 1,300 companies. I think we're at 1,500 now, including those on this slide. But really, they are the ones that are helping us to create and ensure that this community and this ecosystem is one that you can leverage to help find your next purposeful and meaningful career.
Nice.
All right, and so the next slide talks about our career readiness program and how it helps with your transition. So we use a blended learning model, curated insights from, this ecosystem that we have. Again, all of our employer partners, our career readiness instructors, our coaches, all of our community. And, you're expected to, leverage the curriculum that we teach, which was built out of Columbia University over 15 years ago, but obviously updated, every year since then. But when veterans join FourBlock, they just don't gain that knowledge of the curriculum, right? And there's 9 very specific topics that Olivia will cover a little bit later. But you're left with a deliberate career strategy, a relationship-based career strategy. You're more confident. Your mindset is in a manner where you're ready for all the different touch points that are going to occur as you seek out meaningful employment. And that's regardless of whether you participate in our program or not, right? You are going to have these specific touch points. And we're just there to help you build confidence in all of those different types of engagements that will occur. And then the employers obviously benefit, right? So as they seek out, talent like yourselves, they end up finding better interviewers, better candidates, better, employees that overall have a, a lot stronger success at onboarding, but also that retain or are able to be retained by their company. So it's kind of a dual value of what FourBlock has, not only providing, the value to you all, but the value to our employers, our employer partners as well. And the next slide is really just it's a snapshot, just a really quick exercise. Right. And so, one of the very first sessions that we have, it's one of the first 3, it's triangulating your career starting point. It's one where we ask, veterans to really kind of dig into who they are and what they want to pursue, the type of role they want to pursue. But it's an exercise that allows us to give you a starting point to be able to do that. Right. So we have this Venn diagram, as you can see on the screen, where we ask you as part of this, as part of the curriculum, to 1, identify your personal professional values, 2, to define like what your capabilities are, right? So to itemize your skills and your experience and your education and your certifications and all those things that make you marketable. But then we also ask you to do a job market assessment based off of where you want, like which region or location where you want to live. And really identifying what opportunities exist, right? So we have a systematic approach to you conducting a job market assessment with specific tools, and there's an exercise for that. There's a specific exercise where we ask you to highlight or itemize again your capabilities, again your skills and everything else. for today, or like, as part of, this presentation, I'd like to just talk a little bit about like your personal professional values, because I think it's super, super important that that's involved, or we feel at FourBlock that it's super important that that is part of like you defining where to start, right? So as you look at this list, and I'm hoping you can see it, and I hope it's not as small as it is on your screen as it is mine, but there's a full list, right? And again, just one of the exercises, but it's foundational because it really wants us to take a look and see it like what's important to you as you seek out, like, again, where you want to work, and opportunities in different companies that you want to work for. So what I'm hoping we can do is like in the chat, and I assume everyone can use chat, but like simply take a look at the list and identify like what's important to you, right? So like, and I'd just like to just read off what maybe some people are thinking, right? And where you are in your, again, academic careers and where you may want to see yourself, but what's important for you. I know for me, post-military, like being able to like have family first, knowing that I had missed so much over my 23 years was super important for me. So family was like on top. Working remote was also on top. And this was pre-COVID in 2018, right? So I wanted to be able to do that, but would love to see in the chat what's important for everybody else. I don't see anyone there yet, but like I'm gonna call on somebody if we're able to do that. But there you go, Melissa. Thank you so much. Teamwork, right? So what does that mean, right? Economic security, flexibility, all of these things. But these are things that we should be considering as we look for like our next opportunities, or as we look for a meaningful, purposeful role, right? So thank you. Integrity, working with others, family, and intellectual status. There's a lot, right? Personal development here, they all come in. Location, work-life balance, right? A lot of these things that we really don't get a whole lot of opportunity to focus on, we get a chance to focus on in just one of the weeks of the 9 weeks of curriculum that we have. This is just one of the simple exercises. So when we talk about like you gaining confidence in the touch point that you will have when an employer says, hey, tell me about yourself. What are you looking for? You're able to actually answer those genuinely after, going through these exercises and participating in our program. Oh, and by the way, you not only are participating in this program for yourself, but you are going through the program typically with at least 25 to 40 other people, and you're able to have those conversations with all of them, just alike. So again, I'm going to hand off to Olivia now, but thank you all for participating in just this short exercise, and even just thinking real quickly on like what's important for you as you consider what's next in your professional career. So Olivia, I'm going to hand off to you so you can talk more about the program at large. But thank you all so much, and I'll be here, at the end to help answer questions as well.
Thank you, Gary. It's really interesting because you look at these kind of set of values and you really don't think that it makes a difference. You're like, what are you talking about? My values? Like, how does that really play into what I want to do? And I've heard it time and time again when, as you go through, this transitions come about often. They don't stop. And so as you go through this transition, you want to evaluate your values. And then if you go through another transition, you want to reevaluate your values. And you'll understand as you go through these exercises in our program. And if you have that opportunity to do some self-reflection, how important and how vital it will be as you create like that understanding of what you want to do next. Because when you're clear on your why, you're going to be a little more able to convey that to an employer when you're clear on your why. Great. Let me go to the next slide if I can. Trying to make this a little bit. Okay. Now it's giving me a problem after I. Oh, sorry about that. After I decided to make it a little bit smaller, it decided to give me problems. Okay, here we go. Program overview. And just a little bit about the program highlights. This is our flagship program. Gary was able to talk with you a little bit about the other offerings and services that we do have available. This is our flagship program. It meets 10 weeks. You will have the opportunity to meet with 8 to 10 host companies. And there is coach available, as Gary was pointing out. There is an ecosystem. So you have instructors in your cohort, you have coaches in your cohort, and other members that are supportive as well. And the focus is on self-reflection, and it is offered at no cost. Okay. And so basically you meet once a week over the course of a semester at either an employer location or virtually with an employer partner. And let me make sure. Each week, you will connect with new companies, receive career advice, meet hiring managers, discover new industries. You will practice career seeking technical skills, and you will begin the process of building a network for a meaningful career, to pursue a meaningful career. We do have a robust network curriculum, again, as Gary mentioned, that was put together in partnership with Columbia University. And these are just some of the highlights of our career readiness program. All right. Each week, you focus on a specific career readiness topic, from telling your story at the beginning, that you will be able to answer that question, tell me about yourself, to succeeding in the first 90 days and everything in between here. We do ask that our participants come prepared. There is a curriculum that you use before you attend the class. So you'll go through some exercises, you'll do some reflection, and you'll do the homework, or you do the work before you attend the class. Because when you attend the class, it's a 2-hour session that is hosted by a different company. And that company has that opportunity to talk about what is their culture, what is their mission, what are their values. And as they talk about their values, you start thinking about your own values, because you've gone through those exercises, right? You start thinking about, is this a company that I would like to work with? Does it align with my own skill sets? Does it align with my values? And so each topic builds upon the other. Each company representative will meet in a breakout room. If you are in a virtual setting, you will have virtual breakout rooms, and you get to really have that conversation one-on-one with that representative. So we do ask that you come prepared to ask questions of that employer. Because you have that list of employers ahead of time, you can do a little bit of research on the company, and so that you have some questions ready to go in those breakout rooms. If you are meeting in person, you will meet typically in a big room where they'll have seating and tables. And then the networking and group sessions, they're either held in that room, or people spread out into various rooms on that floor in that company, on that company site. All right. Each of these topics is aimed at ensuring that students master these core 6 deliverables. And students are going to be able to deliver an elevator pitch, tell their story, create a targeted resume for a specific role at a specific company. So our hope and our goal is that you are going to have multiple resumes when you complete this course. By the time you complete it, you have one deliverable, and that you upload this resume, your copy and master resume. But you will have multiple resumes, because you're tailoring these resumes to the role that you're applying to as you are starting to connect with employers and when you're ready. You will also be able to have the opportunity to have an optimized LinkedIn profile, utilizing our career flow platform, and also receiving feedback from not only your peers, but also your coaches. You will be able to successfully interview, so answer a question, participate in a mock interview. We do also have a resource called Candorful, and there are coaches that are available to help you practice. If there are some questions that you feel like you're just not answering clearly and you need some more practice, we have Candorful available as well. You will produce a targeted list of companies, as Gary mentioned earlier, that demonstrate a strategic career search. And upon completion of this program and completing all your deliverables, our students are awarded a Credly badge that can be placed on their LinkedIn profiles. Right. These are our career readiness program locations. As you can see, for the West Southwest region, we have a Seattle in person, we have West virtual, Texas virtual, San Antonio in person, DFW is virtual, Colorado is in person. What I do like to say is that almost always our in-person can be hybrid, in that you will find that if it is around a certain metropolitan location, you will be driving across the city. So for example, in Colorado, we do have 2 cities that are represented. There's Colorado Springs and Denver. And then in Seattle, it is really spread out. There's a lot of driving there. Occasionally, there is a virtual meeting, and it really just depends on our partners. If they prefer to meet virtually, then they request it, and definitely we want to accommodate them, because they are taking time out of their long day in the evening after having worked 8 to 5. They come in to help and work with us to help you transition into meaningful work. Then we have our Northeast and Midwest as global virtual, Philadelphia virtual, Northeast virtual, Midwest virtual, Central virtual, New York in person, and Boston in person. There's also Southeast, where we have Southeast virtual, Mid-Atlantic virtual, Tampa in person, Charlotte in person, and Atlanta in person. All right. Again, I'm not going to go over all of these, but here's a glance, a snapshot of our fall cohorts that are meeting in person. As you can see, our cohorts for the spring will be for fall, it's September through December. For spring, we begin about mid to third week of February through May. And again, they're 10 weeks. And for example, we've got Charlotte meeting on Tuesdays from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern time. And these are in person. So these are our Boston is in person, Atlanta's in person. For this particular region, for the Midwest, it would be West of virtual. And so let me go to the next slide. Here we go. And then we have West virtual here. And it meets from 6 to 8 p.m. And again, it is Pacific time. All right. Little bit about our alumni. We have participants from all branches, all ranks, and all different educational levels. Approximately, Gary, correct me, approximately 70%, maybe a little bit higher, of our participants have a degree or multiple degrees or are working toward a degree. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it's actually in the 90s that are
In the 90s. Okay.
yeah, in the 90%. Yeah,
I was aiming a little bit lower.
but close to 70% are active duty in transition, and about 30% are student veterans.
Right. And as you can see, all ranks of service and all branches. Hey. I love these stats here. Over the past 15 years, we've been proud to empower transitioning veterans and military spouses to find meaningful careers at some of our nation's best companies. We've built a robust network of employer hosts, alumni, and volunteers. And here's where the numbers come. We've graduated over 7,000 alumni who are working at over 1,300 companies right now. And not only do our alumni go on to succeed in meaningful careers, many of them come back and return to help us to empower the next generation of transitioning veterans. So we have over 400 volunteer career readiness coaches across the nation. And a lot of them, again, are program alumni themselves. 92% of our alumni find meaningful employment and have reported within 6 months of program exit, or within 6 months of employment eligibility, with a reported starting salary of $101,000. And at 84% of them remain employed in that first role beyond a year. And that's pretty high because retention rates at companies are not high. And that is something they struggle with. And we credit that to you having done the work. So if you participate in this program, you're doing reflection, you're really understanding where you want to be, and you've had that opportunity to do some, real connections with our employee representatives and beyond that, because you start to learn how to network. You really are doing the research and the work, and you end up landing at a place that fits you and fits your capabilities, your values, and again, where you're at in this phase of your life. So is FourBlock right for you? Here are just some eligibility requirements and expectations. We do ask that you have served post 9/11, a bachelor's degree, or are in pursuit of a degree or certification, and that you have that ability to meet that program time commitment. We realize that this program is not for everyone, but it is for those who have a commitment to attending 2 hours a week in session, and then beyond that, spending 3 to 4 hours on the work, on the curriculum. As well as our participant expectations are that you attend a weekly session for 10 weeks, and that you commit to 2 to 3 hours a week of self-study, as I mentioned, and then that you complete the pre and post program assessments. There are also weekly surveys. We are a data-driven organization. And as I mentioned earlier, this program is free of cost, and we would not be able to provide this program free of cost without our partners. And so what we do with this data is that we compile it into an amazing report that they receive after their session, that they've hosted with you. And I'm going to tell you, this feedback is welcomed from our partners. It's just great to have like this conversation with them after they've hosted and share the feedback with them. And it makes them feel like the time that they spent in that 2-hour session was well worth it, because they hear directly from our participants what an impact they have made and the insights that they gained from each of the employer representatives. One thing that we want to make clear is that FourBlock is not a placement firm, nor is it a recruiting agency. Our program will help you and focused build a relationship-based transition strategy while connecting you to some of the best companies in the country. But we are not a recruiting agency. Right. So when to apply? We do recommend sophomore through senior year, ideally before your internships, because you can meet companies here that are offering internships. So we do offer that. So veterans seeking new opportunities are welcome anytime. So if you know a veteran who is at a standstill and they don't know where to go next, and they're maybe hearing that there might be layoffs, or they're just kind of stuck, they're not thriving, they're welcome to apply for this program in the spring. Enrollment will begin in December, I think mid-December. There are steps to apply. You need to attend a FourBlock information session. You are already attending a FourBlock information session. So Gary and I will figure out, if you attended this session, that we can waive that portion for you. And then we will send you a link to apply. Apply to your preferred program location or cohort. And then after submitting that application, we will notify you with your acceptance within 30 days of your application. And if you're asked to schedule a call with one of our staff members, make sure that you schedule it as soon as possible to avoid that application being closed. Gary, did I forget anything on those?
Nope, spot on, Olivia.
Okay. All right. Well, I am going to open this up for questions and stop sharing my screen.
Before
All
we
right.
do that, Olivia, before we
Mhm.
get to the questions, Chevis is on the call, and he's been
yes.
through our program. Chevis, if you be so kind, I would love to hear about your experience with our program and how it may have helped you in finding, where you are today.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Sure. Thanks for inviting me and having me here. Hello to everyone. I attended the February Central Virtual Cohort early this year. It's from February to April. Um, Short and sweet. At the 9th week of the cohort, I applied for a position here at the university, and by the 10th week, I was selected. So before, I mean, the program really worked well for me. Before attending FourBlock, I had been through career services. I went through the career tracks, all good information, resume building through different information sessions on LinkedIn, USA Jobs, all good information. But FourBlock really was more thorough and very specific to our group as far as veterans and military spouses. And it was one of the benefits was the way the program was kind of put together, where the people that y'all bring in, the people that y'all are partnered with, they wanted to talk to us. They wanted to hear our story. They wanted to see how many of the people in this group right now can we hire tonight. Like they were looking for us to say something that, hey, you send me an email, let's talk after this. I can't even count on my hands how many people I know from my fellowship that I still talk with right now. They're like, yeah, I work with that company now, because that's what they were looking for. And they were really looking for someone who understood kind of where they were. But the process also helped us because most of us, when we started that first week, which was the orientation, and it's like, tell us your values, tell us your orientation, we were basically using the same answers that we've been using our whole military career, because we kind of, that's what we've been doing this whole time. So FourBlock is like, no, really dig into that. Like that chapter's closed. You're going to a new chapter. Who do you want to be in this new chapter? What is this new chapter going to look like for you? And a lot of us, we had blank stares on our face. We was like, I don't really, that's what the Navy told me I was. So that's who I am. And you get to choose now, right? So it was great information that was provided that really went in depth. And I've spoken with other colleagues here at the university. If I would have attended FourBlock prior to separating, I wouldn't have joined UAGC right out the gate. I would have had a job. I would have been working for sure. Now I would have joined UAGC later because to get advanced, they want to see the degree, but every week was a networking information session with a company that wanted to hire military, which was unexpected. And it was great. So, I mean, I did a virtual. It was all online. My course was every Monday from 6 to 8, and the coaches were great. They would show up 15 minutes early so we can have like a candid conversation about everything that was going on. And then even after that, all of them, every session was, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn, let's have a conversation. Even with the host companies, the breakout sessions, they're like, hey, connect with me on LinkedIn, we can have another conversation. So if anyone is struggling making these connections, you will get those connections in FourBlock. And like y'all mentioned earlier, and I was saying before we started, I still have access to all of my curriculum. I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at my notes. I can go back and like review it and then open it up when I want to share it with somebody else. They're like, hey, where did you get that from? I log into FourBlock, I go right to the week that we were doing that, and I just send them the link. So definitely an enduring program that stays with you to help you grow throughout your process. So I'm really grateful that I went through it.
Shivas, thank you so much. Yeah, and the additional thing I think Gary may have mentioned this is that FourBlock family, that tribe. I've heard since I've been here, I've only been here a little over a year, but I have heard of people moving from the West Coast or, maybe middle of the country to one of the coasts, and they
Mhm.
seek out our alumni and they're like, hey, I just landed here and I kind of need help finding, making connections to employers in the city and or in this now new region. And our alumni are amazing. They're just a wealth of like contacts and support. And so once you graduate from FourBlock, it's like you're graduating from the University of Arizona Global, you're going to have your own cohort there. You're going to have your own connections, but you're also going to have your FourBlock alumni as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. One of the fellows from my cohort reached out to me because I'm in Southern Mississippi and his wife got transferred to Southern Mississippi. And he's like, hey, I'm coming there. Can we meet up or can we do an information session? And I was like, absolutely. Nobody ever comes here. So yeah, let's do it whenever you're ready. So we had a great conversation just for me to be there to help him acclimate to this area. They're only going to be here probably 4 years, but while he's here, he's looking for everything else that you would want. So it's a great network that y'all put together so we can always connect. And we just connected on LinkedIn and we went from there.
Really great presentation. Thank you so much, Olivia, Gary, and Shevas. I wanted to ask you a question that kind of popped into my mind when you were mentioning, because he just mentioned just a second ago, he said Central region, I believe you mentioned. When you have your cohorts for both spring and fall, I'm sure everybody's kind of thinking in their mind, how many total is it for the year? Is it as far as the cohorts, is it per city or location, or is it a grand total for just spring and fall, which is a culmination of all the cities? How does that work, please?
Gary, did you want to answer that? I was like, I'm sorry, can you repeat that question?
No, no,
I guess the short question would be, how many total
yeah,
if this is a program you have to apply to, how many
correct.
opportunities are there nationally for both
Oh,
spring
I
Yeah.
see,
and
I see,
fall?
I see, I see.
Yeah.
A shorter
30,
version. Yeah.
anywhere between 35 and 40 per cohort. And so we have that many slots, 35 to 40 per cohort. And we have anywhere between 18 to 20 cohorts every term. So let me do the numbers really quick because I can't do them in my head.
Yeah, so like right now we have 19 different program locations or cohorts, each of them, within a specific either region or program location, depending on whether it's in person or virtual. But it is limited, right? And so we know and understand that through our traditional career readiness program, we will have anywhere between 1,100 to 1,200 students, participate every year. Right. If we were to be able to maximize each of the different program locations, then it would really put us at about 40 per cohort. Those that are virtual tend to fill up, fairly quickly, and we have a few in-person program locations that like DC or National Capital Region that fills up, very quickly. But then we can work with you, knowing that we started off in the student veteran space, 15 years ago in New York City. Right. And so the student veterans are near and dear to our heart. So if there is an opportunity to try and get you in, we're going to do everything that we can to make sure that that can happen.
Can I also ask a quick question, Larissa? I just want to ask this one other question. It's I'm sure it's competitive, and since you have only a limited amount of slots. So I guess the question would be for our students and alumni, military affiliated, they're thinking of applying, what could they do? What do you recommend that they do so they are a very strong candidate for this program?
Yeah, what I would say is, first, we do prioritize not only like the timing on where you are in your academic career, but like the timing of like when we open enrollment.
Did Gary must have frozen. I think he did. Let me continue that. Yes. So applying obviously is really important early because it's first come, first serve. And then to prepare, we do ask that you're kind of thinking about how to upskill, right? So if you're thinking you do have, all of you are in a program here, so you definitely meet that qualification. You're pursuing a degree or a credential. And we do have we get this question a lot when I do the information session. How can I prepare myself now? And even if I get enrolled into the program. So a lot of our students end up taking the Find Your Calling course, which is interesting because then it's kind of like a double doozy with the curriculum because it's very similar. The curriculum is not, it doesn't change much, but they're super prepared when they come in, and they can concentrate then on the relationships, building those relationships with the company representatives, doing the networking, but to make yourself kind of more appealing, again, really just take some thought in the application process. Like, how do you think this is going to benefit you? What do you want to do? And why do you think this is a good time for you to join FourBlock? If you attend the information session, you do know why it's an important time for you. If you're going to transition out anytime, like 12 months, you're about 12 months out or 6 months out, this is a really good fit for you. You know, you have the time to put into it. And so that's going to definitely make you a strong candidate.
Excellent. We do have a question in the chat, Olivia, and it's for clarification. Donald asks, I can join a cohort virtually regardless of where I'm at, correct? So regionally, can they join a virtual cohort from anywhere?
Yeah, well, the only thing we ask is that they are able to meet at that time, right? So we have a global virtual program, and so sometimes I have like the Hawaii participants will attend that one, or the people out, you know, in Europe, they're taking that one because that's just the easiest one because it meets from 12 to 2 Eastern time. And so as long as you can commit to attending every session, I have had questions like, can I start off in one cohort and then finish off in the other? And like, well, we're not going to say no to that, but what is the reason that you want to do that for? Why would you want to do that? Because what you're doing is you're bonding with this cohort, right? You're getting to know your colleagues. This is a safe space for them. So they're there really talking about the challenges of transition. And this is your cohort. So you're also put in to our platform called FourBlock Connect. And that platform allows you to communicate with your other peers, as well as the instructors and the coaches. And so you're really building relationships. So you don't want to like start off in one and change to another and then change to another. So as long as you can make those times and that's a good time for you, then we say, hey, why not? Hey, if you think that you're on the West Coast, but you'd rather take the one on the East Coast, because guess what? You're going to end up on the East Coast. So you plan to move out there and you want to connect with employers out there. That's the best cohort for you.
I just wanted to point out earlier in your slide presentation, really love the fact, Olivia and Gary, that the employers were all industries, many industries, from healthcare to you name it. I mean, there are so many different industries in there. So I guess a question that would come from that would be, in the months or the spring and fall, is there a diverse amount of employer or when they work with them, or how does that work when it comes to the cohorts and attending this program?
I'll let
Yeah,
Gary.
we pride ourselves.
Yeah, I'll let Gary do that one because he does a lot of work with connecting with all the diverse companies for us.
Yeah, I mean, we pride ourselves on being industry agnostic, right? But at the same time, right, we started off in New York City, and like most of our companies in New York City are in Manhattan, right? So there's a lot that are in financial services or consulting or somewhere within that space. But that doesn't mean that we don't try and bring in a company like L'Oreal, like women's cosmetics, who host for us like downtown, right? And they have a great facility. So we try and bring in as diverse of a lineup of industry partners so that, again, as we had mentioned, that exploratory process that we know that student veterans and veterans need is there, where they're getting a good taste of everything. I mean, we get students who complain sometimes. We'll bring in like a food manufacturer, right? And they're like, well, I don't want to work in food manufacturing, but that's okay because some people actually do. And it's good for, you at large to be like exposed, if you will, to that industry so that you can in fact know, because what we have a lot of times is like, I've never seen myself working for a bank, right? But then you have a bank host them and they're like, oh my God, I want to work for a bank now, right? And or a specific company, right? Because their values align with who they are. So Werner, great question, and thank you so much for asking. But we do I think a pretty pretty good job at making sure that we have a diverse lineup of companies.
I can see that. I nearly
in each
fainted
of the
when I saw
different.
the list.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I'm like,
Yeah.
1,300 employers. That's
Yeah, but
amazing.
Yeah,
but they
and
are
they're not.
specific, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
like in Austin, like our Texas Virtual in Austin, like, you know, X, the company X, and Elon Musk and all of his companies are kind of
Right.
there, right? So like,
Sure.
of course, there's going to be some effort to try and get those companies within those specific regions or locations involved in our program.
We can.
Yeah, and I mean, we just really try to make an effort to just kind of mix it up. So I know that sometimes if you're really interested in like a certain specific industry like healthcare or something, there may only be one healthcare organization there, and then the rest is going to be, you know, they're going to be, you know, just representing different industries in the region. And so we really try to connect with the region. And so with West Virtual, it's huge, the region. It's all California, it's Arizona, and we've got Hawaii in there as well. And so we're really trying to just connect with more employers. And each term we have different employers. Sometimes we have the same 3 or something, but then we try to mix it up. Yeah.
Well, this is such a great program. I'm sure that everyone attending here and all of us, we could talk about this for hours, but unfortunately we've come out to time. We're close to time now. So I just want to sum up. Thank you. So let's go ahead and press on and sum up. And if you want to connect with career readiness programs like FourBlock and all the other things that they mentioned today that they do, and other organizations that are actively hiring, please log into Handshake through your student portal. We recommend checking Handshake, UAGC Connect, and your email regularly for career services events, as well as SBA events. Reminder, you will receive a follow-up email with a link to this recording and information about FourBlock. If you have any questions for the career services team on your resume, cover letter, or job search, which of course are the things that we do as well, please email careerservices@uagc.edu or log into Handshake through your student portal to explore more resources. Please take 1 minute to hang on at the close of this information session. You'll be directed to complete a quick confidential survey. Your responses will guide us in planning future employer information sessions, career fairs, and events. If you're unable to complete it now, the survey will be emailed to you with a copy of the recording. Many thanks again to Gary, Olivia, and Chevas for joining us today, and many thanks to you, our students and graduates, for attending UAGC. Thank you for attending this event today. We look forward to seeing you at more career services and SBA events, hosted events, and everybody have a wonderful day.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. Thanks so much for putting this together.